What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Cory, and I can't believe we're about to go into 2026. That is just wild to me. I feel like just yesterday we were celebrating 2025, but yeah, maybe it just goes by really quick. I feel like I've got a lot done this year. I've traveled around to a few different states, got to play some music. I got to record and write some new music for a brand new project, as well as do the music videos, and I finally bought a house where now I can actually make my own YouTube content. I can get back to playing drums and doing drum covers, things like that. So it's a blast that I've been able to accomplish so many things. Very blessed to have the support of the people in my life to do it. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what I can bring for you guys in 2026. If you guys are a regular here, I appreciate you stopping by and always checking out the videos. It really means a lot to me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. If you're somebody who's never seen my videos before and you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, like and share the videos. It goes a long way in supporting the channel. And if you absolutely hate my content, I appreciate you stopping by anyways and checking out this video. So thanks again. Either way, you know, it's all good, all love. But yeah, so since it's the end of the year, we're going to go ahead and do the popular thing, and we're going to check out my top 5 albums of 2025. Now, all these albums are pretty much rock or metal albums because as a drummer, those are the things I'm mainly interested in. I like to see how people are playing their kits. I like to see how people are evolving drums. But I also listen to a lot of different stuff. It's just most things don't get into my top 5 because of what it really does for me as a drummer. My top 5 albums are things that I watch and look at from a drumming perspective for the most part, and they just connect with me on a deeper level. These are albums that have rejuvenated me as a music lover and as a musician, and they are albums that I just either was really surprised on, I was either hyped over, or they just delivered in a way that I wasn't expecting. So let's go ahead and check out my top 5 albums of 2025. So my number 5 album of 2025 was Spiritbox Tsunami Sea. Now this album was something I did not expect to love as much as I did. I was a decent Spiritbox fan, but I wasn't like a diehard Spiritbox fan. A lot of the stuff I've heard up to this point, I was like, it's awesome, it's great for metal, and especially with a female vocal, it is something that is very unique, and it is crushing, and it is awesome. But for me, it just wasn't something that I was like head over heels about in every way like some other people were. I'd seen them in concert, thought they did put on a really awesome show, and I do really respect Courtney ever since she was in I Wrestled a Bear Once. But what her and Mike did with Tsunami Sea was just another notch up for me. So, you know, I'm used to seeing these bands that are kind of starting to regurgitate, and it feels like they're kind of following the same formula. They're riding on their successes. And, you know, I think I saw Spiritbox do a few kind of interesting tours where they were, you know, going on tour with bands that weren't quite the bands I thought they'd be going on tour with. It felt like they were going to go a little bit more mainstream. They might go more radio rock. And there were songs in between albums like The Void that I thought were really cool songs, and they were really catchy, but they felt more industrial. They felt a little less metalcore. They didn't feel so heavy. So I didn't know what to expect with this album, and when it came out, absolutely blew me away. I thought I did not expect it to be the way it was. The first time I heard Soft Spine, I was like, damn, this might be the heaviest I've ever heard Spiritbox. And, you know, the second you put on the album, you've got Fata Morgana, and it was just one of those things from start to finish where I was like, this has got me pretty well hooked. I think another song I really liked was Black Rainbow. There was just a couple songs on there for me that I was like, this is pretty badass. Like, especially for what I was looking for at the time, it felt like it connected a lot of the pieces for me. A big album I enjoyed last year was Negative Spaces by Poppy, and it felt like this was taking that essence and really bringing it into a heavier realm. So for me, it felt cool that Spiritbox actually went into a heavier realm instead of trying to follow something that they thought was going to broaden their fan base or their audience. It felt like they went a little bit more into their own, you know, way, and felt like they were being organic to who they are. Mike is a riff machine, and Courtney has some of the best screams and, you know, female vocals in the game. So I'm glad they really just leaned into it instead of trying to figure out a way out of it. And I think that's what I expected. I didn't expect it to come and hit me so hard. And from a drumming perspective, everything Zev was doing, I'm not sure if he's writing the drums or if that's kind of Mike writing the songs and then Zev's just coming along and playing them. But he kills it. He's just a solid drummer, and he just shreds all these grooves, and they work as a full composition. They're not something that's just, you know, oh, this song is overly done, or he's trying to add too much flair into the drums. The grooves drive. They are rhythmic. They are still creative, but they hit. They're orchestrated. They follow the guitars. They follow the vocals. They are gluing the songs together from a rhythmic perspective, and I just love that. So, number 5, Tsunami Sea from Spiritbox. So my number 4 album of 2025 is Sleep Theory Afterglow. I really didn't know what to expect with this album because I really enjoyed Sleep Theory as a band up to this point, but without them having a real full-length album, I wasn't sure which way they were going to go. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a little bit more eccentric and vocal-driven. I didn't know if it was going to be more rhythmic and a little bit more orchestrated and have some cool vocal melodies thrown in. There was just a lot of ways it could have gone, and for me, I wasn't a huge fan of it before because when a band's just kind of coming out, they drop an EP and a few singles, I don't know where they're going to go. I have no idea if they're going to stick around. I have no idea if they're going to be a popular band. I don't know really how far they're going to take it. So I kind of go with a grain of salt, and I kind of go, well, let me hear an album when it comes out. And then here comes Afterglow. And that album was just great from start to finish. Now, it starts with Static, and I thought Static was an awesome song for them to kind of get your juices going into this album. But as the album went on, I feel like you got into songs like, Stuck in My Head or Numb, and these were songs that really showed a lot of their musicality. Stuck in My Head, for example, was such a banger song for me because it was so simple. It's like, how do you write a song to be super catchy, yet super simple and super accessible to a huge audience? And there's no screaming, for example. There's no breakdown. It's almost like a metalcore ballad, very much in the vein of like a Dayseeker or something like that. But it was just done so well. The groove, the vocals, just everything that they're doing. Cullen is a hell of a frontman, I will say that. He just really brings an energy and a presence to the band. And I think they kind of embody almost this metalcore boy band vibe, and it just works so well because even though they bring that vibe, they also bring a lot of know-how and musicality out of what they're doing. Like, they show that they're not just being a metalcore band because they want to be a metalcore band because it sounds fun. You can tell that's what they like. It's who they are. It's what they listen to. It's what they want to be, and it really starts to come out in the music organically. It doesn't feel inauthentic. It doesn't feel like they're forcing it. Again, I just referenced this in the Tsunami Sea part, but Poppy was one of those artists for me that did the same thing. She kind of came into metal, and it felt very much like, wow, this shouldn't feel as good as it does. It doesn't make a lot of sense because you shouldn't be able to go from bubblegum pop like she was doing into basically, her albums that have been on Sumerian, for example. I forget her first one. I disagree. But you've got that or Negative Spaces, and these albums felt very organic. It felt like that's what Poppy should have been doing all along. And Sleep Theory feels the same way. It feels like they're not trying to force their hand. They're not trying to copy anybody. They know who they are. They know their formula. They're bringing a little R&B. They're bringing a little bit of funk, but they also have a huge metal edge that really does feel like who they are. It feels like that's their identity as people, and it comes through in their music. So for me, I think my number 4 album is Afterglow. And from a drum perspective, definitely has some awesome grooves. It's not something that's too complex. It's not going to flash all over the place. It's not going to blow you away with crazy drum fills or insane double bass. But what it does do is it orchestrates, and it really adds a lot of flair and groove and makes the songs feel alive, which again, that's what a drummer should do. If you have a deeper knowledge on your rhythmic approach, you're able to add nuances that brings these songs to life from a rhythmic energy perspective. Your string instruments, your vocals, those things are supposed to bring melody. They are supposed to give the feeling that you're going through something that is meant to have a journey from a melodic standpoint. The drums are supposed to carry that melody. They are supposed to carry the song forward and make you feel like you are going to a point that's going to build tension and give you some kind of relief and make you go, man, this song is just fucking awesome. And I feel like Sleep Theory really nailed that on this album. It was a great album altogether. If you haven't listened to it, definitely check it out. My number 4 for 2025, Afterglow by Sleep Theory. So my number 3 album of 2025, wait for it, it is Sleep Token, Even in Arcadia. Now, I know before you guys start killing me over, I can't believe this, you're not your number 1. Why is it number 1? Should be the number 1 album. Look, okay, I have a different taste than most people do. I'm not listening to music like your average consumer. As a musician, I'm going for a more artistic perspective, and I need something that's going to inspire me. So when I'm listening to music, I need something to grab onto, and I will say most of this album gives me that. Right off the bat, you've got songs like Look to Windward. Awesome song, huge ending. That's exactly what I wanted to hear with this album. However, there's also some songs in there that I thought were good songs. They just didn't give me the same boom that I was looking for. And to be honest, this album is still number 3. That's still pretty damn good. So there were some songs that I still really enjoyed from a writing perspective. Damocles was one of them. And it's just one of those songs, specifically Damocles, where it's got such a great build. It goes through all these different kind of phases of what drumming, for example, has in songwriting. That feels like it's just a full-on pop song with all this extra flair and all this kind of eccentric, theatrical feeling thrown in. And I think that was just so classy of them to do. But on the other side, there was also plenty of songs for me that were just kind of fillers. Like Provider really wasn't a song I connected with. Thought it was a good song. It just didn't blow me away from a drum perspective, right? And so for me, there was definitely a disconnect between that or Take Me Back to Eden. Take Me Back to Eden, every song, banger song, everything kind of had a formula to it, gave me all the drumming I wanted out of it. Each song felt very independent and really chaotic, and this felt a little bit more tame. It definitely felt like they kicked back a tiny bit and said, hang on, let's not go too wild here. Let's kind of take a different approach and do maybe some world stuff, like with Caramel. It felt like it had a lot of Latin vibe. Great songs, really awesome writing, just something that for me took me out of what I was looking for, and I think because of that hard left, I wasn't really as stoked about it. However, I still think the album was fantastic. From a songwriting, from a creative standpoint, and who Sleep Token is in general as artists, it is an awesome album. It just didn't quite make the impact on me like Take Me Back to Eden did. So I think this will still grow on me more. There's a lot to love about this album, and I'm sure a lot of people out there would put it number one on their list. A lot of people are huge Sleep Token fans, and what they have done with their careers in the last few years is just mind-blowing in general. But from a music standpoint, I think for me, I've got to put this number 3 on my list. So number 3 album of 2025, Sleep Token, Even in Arcadia. So my number 2 album is going to be a little controversial. I'm sure there's going to be a few people who don't love that I put this above Sleep Token, but for me, number 2 is the big ol' album, Volume 1 by A Day to Remember. Now, hear me out before you come after me in the comments, okay? I'm a huge A Day to Remember fan, always have been. They were a huge influence on my music when I was growing up. Now, I love their blend of kind of pop punk, metalcore, hardcore. The whole vibe of it is just awesome, right? So when I was getting into drums, I used to jam their music, and there was a few different metal bands and those kind of bands that I started with. Bullet for My Valentine was one of them, Trivium, Day to Remember, System of a Down. Those bands I just loved, right? Those were the ones I wanted to play on drums. I used to love their albums. I would actually get my drum instructors to teach me how to write out the breakdowns and learn these songs, so they were a huge influence. And for me, the last couple albums they had, like You're Welcome and stuff, just weren't my favorite albums. I just didn't think that they were super good, to be honest. Now, they've had some good songs. I thought they had some really good songs in between some of their album releases. But for me, like, What Separates Me From You was probably the last time I really loved a whole album by them. Common Courtesy was okay, and it just felt like it kept getting worse. However, big ol' album comes along. I give it a shot, throw it on, and I was not prepared for how much I was going to love this album. Make It Make Sense comes on. Decent song, kind of liked it, loved the vein, and it felt like, okay, they're kind of going back to basics. But then they had a lot of other songs that I wasn't necessarily expecting. I wasn't a huge fan of Feedback. That song just felt like, okay, this is kind of a song that's trying again to be accessible to the audience that they've built over the years. But then you've got songs like Bad Blood or To the Death that just brought the heavy again, and I was like, man, this is what I'm looking for with A Day to Remember. I think my favorite song on the album is Same Team. That song just shreds. But then you go into a song like Silence right after that has this weird, grungy, almost Mastodon vibe to it. And I just love the way they've blended some of their style, some of their influences, and they're writing music that sounds like old A Day to Remember again. Doesn't mean every song is perfect. Doesn't mean every song doesn't appeal to a different person. But for me, it feels like they're still getting modern influences. They're trying to stay relevant while also getting back to basics for them. And for me, I was so excited for that because I was like, man, I miss when A Day to Remember was good. I felt like A Day to Remember kind of died probably 10 years ago, where it was like, you know, they're putting out music, sure, and they have some good songs, but so many bands started really raising the bar, and it felt like they were just coasting by. And it feels like finally we're getting A Day to Remember back to their form, finally back to the band that I used to love, and they're writing new tunes that I can fall in love with all over again. I've learned quite a few of them on drums. They're not super difficult, but again, musically, they were never meant to be difficult, but they're starting to add the elements. They're starting to feel modern. They're starting to feel relevant. So I'm really excited. I mean, I'm actually excited to hear whatever big old album Volume 2 is. I really want to get to that. So that album for me, all summer, I pretty much jammed this album. I still jam it now, and it's awesome because it gives me a little bit of nostalgia. I feel like I'm driving to high school again when I go to work and I blast some of these songs, and I'm like, dude, it just hypes me up again. Like, it's not like I'm trying to listen to something that's just super heavy, super technical. They're just fun songs, and they get back to some of the stuff that makes them fun. They go from a really heavy tune to something like All My Friends, where it just makes you want to sing along and have a good time. So for me, number 2 album of the year was big ol' album, Volume 1 by A Day to Remember. Now my number 1 album of the year, and you're probably not going to expect it, but it is 21 Pilots, Breach. I can't believe I'm saying that because I've never been that big of a 21 Pilots fan. I mean, I like 21 Pilots. Again, I know all the hits, but I have never dove into the lore. I have never been that big of a fan of Josh Dun on drums. I have never really dove into the band like a lot of the diehard fans are. My girlfriend loves them, so sure enough, she kind of was the one who hyped me up on this, and I was like, all right, cool, like, I'll check it out. I love some of their songs. Don't get me wrong. Some of their songs are classics. I mean, Blurry Face is a great one. They have a song called Saturday that's a jam, and most of these songs I love, especially the first time I heard Guns for Hands. Great tune. It's just a totally different genre than something I'm normally going to go and listen to on a regular basis. But we went to the pre-release for Breach, and I just thought the songs were incredible. Like, just listening to them in a room with 100 other people. So when we actually got a copy of the album, it finally came out, we got to listen to it in the car. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome, and I felt like they just stepped their game up in every way. You start with something like City Walls, which, you know, has the lore involved and was a really expensive music video they did, but as a song, it still has a crazy vibe to it. Contract is a freaking banger. Like, so many songs. Drum Show, too, is one where I really was impressed. I was like, this is really showing that 21 Pilots is not a one-trick pony. These guys are getting better with every album, and it really, to me, was something where I finally noticed how good Josh is at actually orchestrating his songs and the nuances that he writes. Now, he's got this cool flair between something like punk rock, Travis Barker, but then also like very hip-hop and like Questlove, and I just don't know how he blends it so well because he's got this infectious energy on the kit to where some of these songs feel like you've got Tyler, you know, obviously writing these incredible hooks and melodies, but Josh is just the focus of the music. Like, yes, you've got these really catchy songs with cool pianos. Some of them have awesome bass riffs. Some of them have these really catchy kind of synth patterns, but Josh is just driving the album, man. And for me, I never really had seen Josh accomplish the stuff he was doing on this album. Now, is his drumming the most complex stuff you've ever heard? No, but the things that he adds are so rich in nuance. It's insane. Like, he's just so eccentric the way he'll put in a couple ghost notes, or he might use some dynamic here or there, or his groove just changes just enough to be interesting the next go around and it doesn't feel repetitive. So it was just one of those albums that blew me away because I was not expecting it to be what it was. It was not something that I was thinking this pop rock album is just going to blow me away. Like, I like these guys and they're cool music, but they're not something that's going to blow me away musically. And I was so wrong. It was ridiculous. So it has inspired me a lot because listening to it, and then we went to see them live on the tour for this album, and just in general, their musicality, their musicianship, their showmanship, their performance, every aspect of it was just insane in the highest caliber you can get for music for me, especially with rock. I mean, the energy they brought, the show they brought, they told a story. They honestly were on point, tons of energy, a lot of comedy, just showcasing what personality as an artist is. So for me, I really got to dive into that album, and I thought I connected with it, probably because those guys are around my age too, so it felt like they were still touching on all the subject matter that they do, because, you know, songs like Car Radio, for example, very deep dive into depression, these kind of deeper messages that they're putting into their music, and when those came out, that was 15-ish years ago. So you're looking at it like these guys are older, they got kids, they've grown up, but they're still writing from a place of relativity for the average listener, somewhere where I can really get myself in his shoes while he's writing the song and feel what he's feeling, because it feels like he knows what I'm feeling in life. And I think that's an important thing as an artist. So when you're feeling that and you're feeling vulnerability and then you're connecting with the music, there's just nothing better than that for me. That is the most solid and organic state of music and the way it connects to the listener and the audience that you can get. So for me, those guys just absolutely shredded on the album. Highly recommend listening to it. I think some of the songs like Drum Show, Downstairs, Raw Fear, Tally, they're just all great songs. They have such cool, unique sounds, and just the way they're written is just so good. It's just insane. To me, I think my favorite song is Robot Voices, probably because the drum beat just kind of dives and there's so many cool little things that Josh puts in there. So highly recommend it. But yeah, for me, #1 album of the year, Breach by 21 Pilots. All right, guys, that was my top 5 albums of 2025. I'd love to hear what your top 5 albums of the year were, so go ahead and let me know down in the comments. And hopefully you guys have a great New Year's, have a great holiday, and I will see you guys in early 2026. Next year, going to be a big one, so I'll see you then. Peace out.